Earlier this year, I documented my struggles with some UVC capture cards that I had. It's a bit of a long story, one that you should check out by the way. But the TLDR is, I settled on XR1 Lite with a firmware update over the EasyCap Game Link Raw, due to mostly audio issues. But one recurring pattern in the comment section was people asking if they could use these capture cards as a way of playing their games through the OBS preview. Well, a part of me scoffs at this. I could see scenarios where you would want to do this. Maybe this person only has one monitor and can't afford another one for whatever reason, or they only have a laptop with them. Well, you need some power for these capture cards to record properly at 60 FPS, as I discovered with my old gaming laptop. I'm not gonna sit here and seriously judge someone's current situation, hypothetical or not. Seems kind of just mean. So instead of answering each comment individually, I decided that for the future, I'd rather just make a video that I can link to in a pinned comment for these capture card videos, and just leave my comment section be. Besides, I find that a lot of people who come to these videos, especially the first one, are probably looking into information about these capture cards, and that's something that I should have accounted for more when first creating them. Sorry about that. Anyways, there are two answers to this conundrum. The objective answer and the subjective answer. The objective answer is no. Or at least, I don't think it would be a replacement for just another monitor. Let me explain. All digital standards have at least a little bit of latency with their hardware. Typically, most gaming recommendations recommend that you have this latency as low as possible for things like reaction times, especially if you have something like hitboxes to worry about. However, the thing about capture cards on the OBS preview is that you're also rendering frames for a what would be video. You may have noticed that both with the XR1 Lite and the Game Link Raw have much lower latency than my old Elgato HD60. The Game Link Raw even states that it has latency as low as 50 milliseconds. Here's the thing about that. So the typical gamer standard is 60 FPS, right? Each frame is about 16 milliseconds. So ideally, you want that delay under that 16 milliseconds for the most accuracy. 50 milliseconds, on the other hand, is about 4 to 5 frames of delay. If you need as soon reaction time as possible, then you're still better off using the pass-through to a monitor. All that's worrying about is processing the signal from one end to the other. And even then, most cheap monitors are still under that 5 millisecond delay. But don't just take my word for it. Let's compare the footage for the preview and the direct capture card pass-through. Disclosure, by the way, this isn't the most scientific way of verifying this, but I don't have the fancy frame detection hardware that EposVox and My Life in Gaming have. This just happens to be my best way of showcasing this at the moment, and I kinda just don't want to say these claims without some kind of evidence, even if it is just anecdotal. Maybe at some point I'll come back to this video and actually do something with more hard science, but this is what we kinda got to work with right now. As you can see in the frame delay, this is pretty close with what EposVox's stream guides shows. In fact, if you want to have a more in-depth look at like input latency and capture cards, that man has multiple videos about the subject that I'm gonna link, and I'm using as reference for a bit of fact-checking when trying to explain my points. And those go way more in-depth in the topic that I can reasonably handle. Now, the subjective answer is, it depends. Don't you love that answer? What's the game you're playing? What's your tolerance for input lag? Do you tend to feel input delay in general? Some people tend to have a higher sensitivity to this than others. Like, listen, if you're playing a Pokemon game, input latency isn't gonna matter that much. Unless, of course, you're using the A+B+ down strat to catch Pokemon. 60% of the time, it works. Every time. I've never even seen Anchorman. But like, if you're playing a competitive game, you might find yourself having a bit of delay when you pull that trigger. If you're playing something casually, that's gonna matter more down to your own tolerances. Now I'm gonna take the time and actually let you know if I personally find this playable through the OBS preview. Soul Calibur 3 being my subject. Man, you think people are sick and tired of me playing this game on these videos? editing memes here from the future. So you might have realized that I recorded a separate video of a botched recording, so I had to record this twice. And you know, what I found both times was, I couldn't tell. I can block those? My non-competitive butt could not tell the difference between the preview and the pass-through. I couldn't. Like, listen, objectively I knew that I was 4 frames behind, but when I was trying to feel for it, I couldn't. And maybe knowing objectively that I was 4 frames behind kind of messed with me a bit, but you can objectively see it. You can see that there's a difference. But as far as I could tell, I couldn't feel it. Maybe you might be fine after all, but you're still like 4 frames behind, so really comes down to that tolerance and how sweaty you are, frankly. So yeah, that wasn't quite the result I was expecting. I still have a bit more of the video if you want to continue watching. Okay, but let's say you're not like me and you only have access to 1 monitor. What do we do? The simplest answer might just be to switch around the HDMI cables after you hit record. Or, alternatively, get an HDMI switcher so you don't have to go through all that hassle. This way you still have 1 monitor, but you can still enjoy games lag-free. But if you still want to see your screen for whatever reason, I do have a solution to that, and I can't believe that this is the video that I'm going to showcase Desk Screen. Desk Screen is a piece of free and open source software that allows you to share your screen wirelessly to any device with a web browser. I've done this both with my Android and iPad respectively. It isn't the most perfect solution, but it might be a good workaround if you still need that window in front of you. If you're a laptop user, well, I'm afraid you're going to have to make a call on whether or not some input delay is acceptable to you or not. Unless laptop manufacturers are going to start making laptops with a display input instead of just an output. Good luck with that. Thank you for watching this video on OBS input latency. If you want more info on capture card latency, EposVox in general has some good videos on the topic, and are frankly criminally underrated. Might as well cite my sources, right? I use those videos a lot in referencing it, just so that I made sure that I got my information and terminology correct. Really helped in tackling this topic. I guess this is the end of the video. Oh wait, no it's not, because I have some additional information I would like to share with you all. Just in case anyone missed it. So that audio desyncing issue that I had with older consoles seem to have been fixed by separating the audio sources in OBS, or in the case of the XR1 Lite, having a firmware update that just fixed everything. It's just fine now. Though I was then informed that there's apparently documentation on EasyCap's website that says that it requires about a half-second sync offset, which now I need to research and make a short on, because that's fascinating if that's actually how they intended the device to be used. Okay, seriously, the more I seem to poke and prod at EasyCap's device, the more I'm starting to wonder if I'm about to stumble upon a major conspiracy. I'm about to do a goddamn Pepe Sylvia!